my addition to the love list, Kyren Williams, who
Yes, sir.
the last we saw Kyren Williams was in his greatest moment, fumbling at the one against the Niners, but better days ahead for Kyren. Beginning this week against the Baltimore Ravens. It's so strange, Matthew. You can make the case right now the two worst teams in football are the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, which I don't think you would have said. A month ago, obviously injuries playing in a ton there. And if you look at the most fancy points allowed to running backs this year, Bengals 1, Ravens 2. The Ravens are even reinvigorated the Texans' much maligned run game last week. Kyren Williams, they're a 7.5-point favorite at the moment in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson not practicing, not expected to go. Expect they're going to have game script. Expect they're going to run the ball a ton. Expect that Kyren Williams gets into the end zone as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, just massive workload here. Have we seen some Blake Corum? Sure, we have. But your point to the matchup on the road at Baltimore, I like everyone. Rams are 7.5-point favorites in this game. Over/under is 44.5. I think I might take the over here. I guess part of the challenge here is, can Cooper Rush move the ball against the Ravens? I feel like this has kind of a backdoor cover feel to it. Maybe not necessarily the 7.5, but the 44.5. I do think I could see them getting over because I think Stafford has a big game. Kind of a preview of what may be coming in quarterbacks. But I think the entire Rams offense, after a disappointing loss.
Yeah, they should have won that game.
They should have won that game, and now they've had 10 days to prepare for, candidly, the worst defense in the NFL.
Yep. By the way, Puka Nacua in that game, his receiving prop is set at 103.5. I don't think I've ever seen a number that high. Even like Cooper Kupp in 2021, he was being set like 98.5.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua, just incredibly favorable matchup, and obviously his target share is through the roof.
Well, and part of that, by the way, is because Nacua is having such an unbelievable season, people will bet it. I think DraftKings is keep raising that number because they're like, most people are taking the over. Whatever number we set for Puka, I bet you the majority of bettors are taking the over is there. But it's been a great season, and as long as they can stay healthy, him, Adams, Williams, Stafford, all very favorable matchups against the Ravens this Sunday.
Yep, let's get to another favorable matchup, and that's Rachaad White going up against the Niners, whose defense doesn't look as imposing without Nick Bosa gone for the season. Now, I thought there might be some uncertainty or some usage for Sean Tucker in the offense, and there really wasn't. It was Rachaad White's show. Yeah,
I mean, that was the thing, right? What was it going to look like without Bucky Irving? And the answer is it was going to look like a lot like Rachaad White again. And oh, by the way, did we mention Rachaad White? 75% of the Buccaneers' team running back touches last week went to Rachaad White. He had an 81% snap share, played 81% of the snaps, I should say, as well. And then you think about, okay, somebody that's going to get a lot of work against San Francisco, that's pretty good. 3 out of the 5 running backs to face the 49ers this year have gotten at least 120 yards from scrimmage against them. They've given up 120 or more yards to scrimmage to an opposing running back in 3 or 5 games this season. The other thing that's important here, you mentioned, not having Nick Bosa, but where the Niners have really struggled this year is against pass-catching running backs, which is obviously such a big part of Rachaad White's game. They actually allowed the 5th most receptions to opposing running backs. The Niners do. So Rachaad White, who's getting a massive workload, heavily involved in the passing game in a favorable matchup against the 49ers, he's a top 12 running back for me this week. We don't expect Bucky Irving for at least another week.
Yep, a lot of trust in that offense. Question from Tanish Joshi, Rachaad White or Davante Adams?
To start this week, I'm still going with Davante Adams. I get it. Well, you'd go Rachaad White?
I think so, just because of the workload and just because I'm a bit worried that Davante, who's dealing with the hamstring and also I don't think they're going to need to rely on him a ton in the fourth quarter against Baltimore. So I think it's close. Obviously, you don't feel good as a man or woman benching Davante Adams for Rachaad White, just in a nutshell, but I think this kind of calls for it.
I get the question. I think I would probably say White is the floor play, Adams is the upside play. So I think it depends on what your matchup looks like, who else you have on your roster. It's fair about the hamstring. Let's see how that plays. It doesn't seem like he's in danger of missing this game. But to your point, if the game gets out of hand, do they pull him to save it? I just sort of, like I said, in general, when I have a question like that, where like they both have good matchups, they're both going to play a lot of snaps, I just go with the more talented NFL player. And I just think Davante Adams is a better NFL player than Rachaad White is.
Yep.
But I certainly get that. Like, there is a floor to Rachaad White that isn't there with Davante Adams, who could easily, again, Puka goes crazy, Kyren bounces 2 in, and then next thing you know, they're up 35-7 in the third, and they're like, hey, Devontae, let's just,
Yeah,
call it a
Devontae
day.
could go off for 140 and 2 touchdowns against his defense. He could also just not have to do much and be 4 for 47 or whatever. My next addition to the love list is Josh Jacobs, who I think has become like the best anonymous star in the NFL.
Sure.
When does anyone ever talk about Josh
No.
Jacobs? Guy won the rushing title, and he's a key part of one of the 4 favorites to win the Super Bowl. He's just one of the best running backs in the sport, and he's a 2-touchdown favorite against the Bengals. They're coming off a bye. He had a little knee thing against the Cowboys where he came out, then came back in. He should be fresher, should be healthier, and just there are a few better bets to get into the end zone this week than Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I mean, I, off the top of my head, I think he scored in something like 14 of the last 15
just
games.
scores
Or
touchdowns
some,
for fun.
Yeah, just at some insane rate like that. Quick note there that if you are, given the knee injury with Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson feels like he has now established himself as the number 2 there in Green Bay. So if I had Jacobs, I might stash Emmanuel Wilson just to sort of grab somebody. Marshawn Lloyd is coming back here soon too. But Emmanuel Wilson, if for some reason Jacobs missed, it would be Emmanuel Wilson at the moment. But yeah, I think it's a combination of 3 things. I think it's, number one is he's in Green Bay. So it's a small market city, right? He's not in New York or Chicago, LA, etc. Number 2 is, this is going to sound dumb, but his name is fairly boring.
Yes.
Josh Jacobs, like,
Sure.
I feel like a lot of, not everyone, but a lot of the superstar players have unique names.
Yeah.
Right? Even Kyren Williams. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of, like, Quinshon Judkins,
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Like, those are all Puka Nacua, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Those are all unique names. Josh Jacobs is just like, Josh Jacobs could be like your insurance adjuster.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, is like Jonathan Taylor. It doesn't sound like a fancy, but I don't know. There's something like presidential about Jonathan Taylor, JT, as well. Josh Jacobs, he's got screwed because everyone else is named JJ already, so he doesn't get JJ. He's
Doesn't get
just
JJ, right.
Josh
Justin
Jacobs.
Jefferson is there.
Yeah.
He's not even the best JJ in the NFL,
Exactly.
respectfully. And the other thing is that, like, Josh Jacobs is sort of is a guy that kind of like keeps his head down,
he's
minds his
quiet.
own business. He's not making boastful quotes. He's
Yep.
not on social media doing a bunch of crazy stuff. He's just sort of
Hasn't
like
been in the playoffs much either.
Yeah, he's just sort of like he is. This isn't the best phrase, but he's Johnny Lunchpail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does like he just keeps his head down, does his job.
Yep.
Like he would have fit perfectly on the Patriots.
Sure.
That like the old Belichick Patriot way.
Yep.
Do your job. Like I feel like that's Josh Jacobs. Like
Yep.
that's all he does is just show up, convert, go home.
Yep. Well, I think he's going to convert in the red zone this week. Got a question.
But he should be a bigger star than he is. I agree with you there.
Jacobs or Judkins? Rest of season, Matthew.
Why am I?
Josh Jacobs or
Josh
Quinshon
Jacobs.
Judkins?
It's so weird. For some reason, I went to
about it.
Brandon Jacobs. I'm like, why are we talking about Brandon Jacobs?
Yeah. Brandon Jacobs or Ahmad Bradshaw rest of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Ahmad Bradshaw, right. Exactly. Wow, that's a really good one. I'm going to say Josh Jacobs just because I think the offense is better.
Yep.
But, I mean, it's close. Judkins is right there. Judkins and Jacobs are both, rest of the season, both top 12-ish running backs. They're both like borderline RB1s.
Here's the reason I would go Jacobs. It's very simple, but the Packers are the 4th or the 5th best team in the league, and the Browns are the 4th or the 5th worst team in the league. And just by virtue of game script, Jacobs is just going to score more touchdowns than Quinshon Judkins. And I think the yardage isn't going to be that far off. It's just the touchdowns are going to be so disparate.
And the passing game usage.
Yeah.
Like, they're not scared to use Jacobs in the passing game. Judkins, it doesn't seem like he's a big part yet of their third down offense. So
I think the Packers are about to go on a little bit of a roll here, coming off the bye. Home to the Bengals, where they're 2-touchdown favorites, at the Cardinals, at the Steelers on NBC and Peacock. Both those games on the road, not layups, but they'll be favored in both. Then home to the Panthers, which has 2 touchdowns for Josh Jacobs written all over it. So I think the Packers, who have been a little bit uneven so far, for all the hype around them, they're 2-1-1.
Right, and then home to the Eagles on Monday Night Football in Week 10, but then Week 11 at the Giants. So 5 of the next 6 games are games in which they will be favored, all of which I think off the top of my head are bottom half of the NFL in terms of rush defense. Yep. The Steelers aren't the Steelers anymore.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think this is going to be a really nice run for the Packers in general and specifically Josh Jacobs because they're going to be favored against teams that struggle to stop the run.
Yep. comment from Barhop. His name, Josh Jacobs, is so forgettable you just forgot it in 3 seconds.
100% true. That's
still a little disturbing that you just immediately go to Brandon Jacobs after just talking about Josh Jacobs for 2 minutes.
I don't know. It was so stupid. But like also the whoever tweeted it or whatever, he put an apostrophe before the S. Like he doesn't. It was Jake Ubbs. Like almost like some guy named Jacob who has Quinshon Judkins on his team or something. It just
possessive article.
A bit of brain fart.
Yeah,
I'm also not that bright, so just keep in mind. I'm losing my mind in my old age.
Yeah. This is the man who chases Pinot Grigio with Diet Coke. Sometimes the wiring goes off in your brain as a result.
That is factually correct.
All right, let's get to others receiving votes, headlined by...
and you love me despite it. That is why the fire burns bright between us.
Indeed. Well, the fire is burning bright for Quinshon Judkins, who continues to get massive workload, Matthew. I think a key thing, too, is that the Browns' defense is so good that these games aren't getting out of hand enough for him to lose the ability to just keep running the ball a little bit at least.
Yeah, you mentioned the workload. Over the last 3 weeks, the only people averaging more touches per game are Chris McCaffrey and the aforementioned Josh Jacobs. So he's got 22 touches per game over the last 3 weeks, and now he gets Pittsburgh. It's a bottom 12 run defense in terms of rush yards allowed to opposing running backs. So we like Judkins again. Steelers, not the Steelers of old. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Bill, you signed my guy right there as well. Breakout game for him last week. We thought this was coming. 70% of the team's running back rush attempts last week. I don't think that that changes now. Like, you're not putting that genie back into the bottle. No one has a higher yards per carry average this year than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt among running backs. He's averaging 6.6 yards per carry. By the way, the Bears allow the most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. So JCM or Bill should get into the end zone on Monday night. On Monday night against Chicago. And then finally, get your popcorn ready. Buckle up. Rico Dowdle.
Uncle Rico.
Going back to Dallas, the revenge game everyone had no idea they wanted.
Micah Parsons and Rico Dowdle back-to-back. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But Cowboys allow the 6 most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Massive workload. We don't know if Chuba Hubbard is back. He didn't practice yesterday, but the expectation now is that Hubbard will either miss this game or be limited. And so Rico Dowdle, I think, is a viable flex in a good matchup against the Cowboys.
Yep. By the way, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the number one running back by PFF grade so far, which doesn't factor in volume as much, but just on a per-play basis, to your point, leading the NFL in yards per carry. He's just really good. He's explosive and powerful and elusive. And so, to your point, all the PFF metrics don't necessarily translate into fantasy points, but they do give you a baseline to say, like, oh, this isn't just a guy that happened to get into the end zone on a couple of broken plays or whatever. It's like, oh, no. This is a special talent. There is a reason why Connor Rogers ranked him ahead of R.J. Harvey in his pre-draft rankings. This is somebody that, had he been able to play more than one game at Arizona last year, would have been, possibly a day 2 pick, or an early day 3 pick, as opposed to the 7th round where he went. And it's one of the reasons why the Commanders, a team that was contending this year, that is contending, that has Super Bowl aspirations, was like, hey, Brian Robinson, we're good to let you go somewhere else because we believe in Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Call me Bill. Okay.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.